Black British Dynasties in Music, a family affair. In conversation with Harmony and Mo Samuels.
What's going on? Robert Bruce right here. We're on the Zoom call again in this amazing series. And I'm in the presence virtually of greatness. Two people that have really shaped the soundscape for a lot of the good vibes, good music we hear worldwide in the UK to the US to the Afrobeat scene. Both from the same family. And I'm super excited to get into their story. So before we jump in, can I get a "my name is" and "I am" from the both of you, please?
Perfect. Big bro goes first.
My name is Harmony H. Money Samuels. I'm a singer-songwriter, producer, and entrepreneur.
My name is Moses Samuels. I'm a singer-songwriter, producer, and a young entrepreneur on the come up.
Lovely. At this point, it'll be the only time where I give you any sort of lead, but we're jumping into the timeline of your journeys and seeing each other's journeys and stuff like that. So from the both of you, for people that are listening right now, what songs have you been involved with that people might know? But you got to say it for each other. Okay. So harmony from home.
All right, Rich 32. I mean, you name me which one. I mean, there's been plenty of Rich 32 records that I love that my brother has done. I mean, you did the albums in it, so would that even count? That can count in it.
Yeah.
But specific.
What, the specific songs or the albums?
Songs, artists, albums, anything. Yeah, just as a light intro.
Okay. All right. 6 Words obviously was an important record for my brother because that was the record that broke him in the UK. Like, that was the record that set him apart. See what I'm saying? That was the record that I was like, all right. I remember him sending it to me and saying, Hans, listen to this. And I said, yep, that's it. That's the one. That's the one. That's the one that's his first, correct me if I'm wrong, Moses, that's the first charting record you did, isn't it?
Yeah, in the UK, yeah, that was the first.
In the UK, yeah. So that was the first charting record. So 6 Words with Rich 32, one of my favorites. Big favorite of mine. Another Rich special. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, Tell Me, Kojo Funds. That's another big one of mine. I love that record. That was a big tune in London. So.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That was a big record. I remember you sampled Roddy in it.
Yeah.
So the maddest thing about that is Roddy Jerkins discovered me and signed me. They sampled him on that song. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, that was a big one. I was like, you know what I mean? Just full circle. And I was really excited about that. And I'm very proud of them for that one. And then I think another album that I was really excited about was Beach House record, Ty Dolla $ign, Beach House. Right. They did a song in there called Side Effects. Yeah. That was a big song for Ty Dolla $ign. That was like him, Mo played me that record as well before it came out with Uncle Pooh Bear, songwriter, connoisseur. And man played that to me. I said, yeah, that man is out of here. And then I think there was one more. There's another tune. There's one more tune I want to say that I loved. Was it Velvet by Stormzy for Stormzy?
Yeah.
That was hard.
Yeah.
That was hard. So, yeah, I'm actually kind of impressed. I remember all these.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I'm
very impressed. I remember all these. So, yeah. So, yo, those were like very big songs and very like monumental for me to watch my little brother have moments of greatness. And you know, it wasn't like I came in and helped or did anything. I didn't put them in the room. I didn't do anything. They did that by themselves. So for me, I was very proud to watch him, you know, receive those accolades. And for me, it just was like, yeah, this thing that I started is working.
Nice. Amo, what about you for Harmony? What are some of your
the first one that was monumental for me, and Being So Proud was championed by Chris Brown, by Chipmunk featuring Chris Brown. I remember
that was a mess.
That for me was, I just remember being at my friend's house, being 20, what was it, 20 years old, maybe 21. This is before I started going to LA, and you're around people that we've all been around, and at the time, no one really was given, that respect where you want.
Yeah.
So that song came out, and I remember being like, yeah, that's my brother. My brother made that. My brother made that. And then seeing him in the video standing next to Skepta and stuff, it was just a very, very important moment. Not just for the scene, but for us as a family, because it was like, we're on our way there. Do you get what I mean? Like, it was like, okay, that's important. Another one for me was the Chris Brown record called "Say It With Me," and "Oh My Love." Actually, it was a double threat.
Same album.
Same album. Yeah, and I think that was so important and such a proud moment, because we all grew up listening to Chris Brown in some sort of way, and Chris Brown has been the person spearheading the R&B scene for a while at that point. So, being able to like see, because when I was going to LA, Harmony was bringing me into those sessions and just letting me sit and watch, and it was just like, you see it go from that moment to it being out, and Chris Brown having a BET special and actually saying, I've worked with this new producer from London called Harmony Samuels. It was just like, yeah, he's really gone. Like, can I still pick up the phone and call him? Do you get what I mean? Like, that was such a big moment for our family and for him. You know what I mean? And it was great to champion that and speak about it like it was my own success. And not the final, but one of my other great moments, because he's had so many great moments. He's been in the game for 20 plus years, and was the Janet Jackson record, the one that she recently released, Made for Now. Another historical moment. Like, we're talking about a Jackson, like that's not something that everybody gets to say that they've done in their lifetime, you know what I mean? And it wasn't, and a lot of the times, a lot of people think, situations or sessions like that are, you send the record. No, she was in our studio, wow. He's very, very good friends with this woman. And then to see him in the video, really, really spearheading the Afrobeat scene on a worldwide scale, because it was essentially an Afrobeat record, was just like, huh? Like, you can do this. You can give this to Janet Jackson. Like, wow, like this is different. So I remember I still have the pictures of us on FaceTime, and I was like, you're gone. Like, wow. And he had already gone before this moment. Before then, but it was like you're gone again kind of moment. You know what I mean? So yeah. Those for me were really special moments, special moments. And I want to say a big shout out to Mikey Music, who's also our extended brother, works. Me and him are a duo, and a lot of this stuff that I've been able to do wouldn't happen if I didn't have Mikey on my team too. So shout out.
And we're gonna speak about that part of the journey as well. Yeah. But let's take it back to the beginning. So North London for the both of you.
More so.
So let me explain it, because it's a Muslim, right?
Yeah, give me all of that.
So we're kind of like, I'm kind of like me and Mo are kind of like world travelers in it. Like, we move around in it. So I was originally born in New Cross.
Okay.
And I spent like 8 to 9 years in New Cross. And then my parents, because we was like New Cross, Broccoli, Peckham, that whole Queens Road, Peckham, it was getting bad out there, yeah? And then in the 80s, so then my parents moved us to the suburbs in Thamesmead. It's Niggerville now, but it's Niggerville now. But in 1989,
the suburbs.
It was the suburbs, right? And I think my parents bought that house for less than $100,000. And they just wanted us to go to like a Catholic school and try. They were really just Nigerian parents trying to figure it out for their kids. Moses wasn't even born at that point.
Yeah.
So now I've gone out. Moses was born like a year after we moved to the suburbs. And at that time, I was probably one of 4 black kids in my school.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I was like 8, 9 years old at the time. And then, so we spent like 9 years there. But then it was weird because we went to church. We still went to church in South London. So I was in South London every week. Old Kent Road, New Cross, Brockley, Peckham, you know what I mean? Lewisham. We were always down there, regardless of us living in Thamesmead.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, more and more Africans and Caribbean people were moving to the suburbs too, because they must have caught on to the fact that, you know, you could get bigger homes for cheaper because they had bigger families in it. Yeah. But then transport got better as well. You know, trains got better, buses got better. Yeah. And then, you know, so then I spent a couple of years there. Moses was born at this point. And then I left at 17 to go to university. Yeah. And I go to Hertfordshire. So when I go to Hertfordshire now, I end up getting an apartment because I didn't get
uni.
I didn't get it. So I end up getting an apartment in Tottenham, in North. It's 7 Sisters, and I could just buck a train or jump on the freeway, and I was there within 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Mm-hmm. So I just was like, boy, I'm gonna stay in the neighborhood because I had a lot of friends in North from my church. So an Afrobeat artist, a very well-known Afrobeat artist called Shay Shay was my best friend growing up.
Oh, okay.
Shay Shay lived in North, and she was like, yo, H, you should just live in North. Your uni ain't far from there, and you could do the music thing out there because North, for some reason, had an interesting music scene. For another 10 years, so I did 9, 10 in South, and I did like 8 in like the suburbs, and then I did a next 10, 12 in like North. So the latter part of my life, like 17 to like 28, that's kind of why everybody said I was from North, because I was still really young, you know what I'm saying? And I was working with everybody. So I was around C1, I was around North Star, I was around Young Spray, I was around all of the rappers back then. You know what I'm saying? I was around Bronze and Black, much music around. Like Chip weren't even around them times. You're talking like 97, 98. So it was really, really early in the music space. And Garage was like going real hard. But yeah, so that's how the North thing came about. And I ended up in North for majority of my stay in London. And I appreciate it, you know. And then, you know, as Mo got older, he started bucking me up there and coming to link me up there. You know, I'm gonna go stay with Big Bro. Come up and stay with me. And he was in the studio. Like my first ever music studio was in North London.
It was North. Got you. And Mo, for you, so yours was a lot of South as well. Were you both going to the same church and playing in church? Did you ever have crossover, or were your journeys into music differently?
Yeah, no, it was intertwined in every way that you can think of. So how it really began was my mom's brother is a pastor.
Okay.
So for a while we were going to his church. Well, to be fair, prior to that, there was a few churches that we were going to, kind of like just seeing where we kind of situated, and then we ended up going to my uncle's church, and we were there for a while, and Harmony was coming there for a period of time. And then as he got older, he kind of started finding his own way, and, you know, wanted to kind of go to a church that he felt comfortable with. And you know what I mean? So at the time, I didn't really have choice. I you know what I mean? Like, my brother was older, so he was the oldest, so he could make certain decisions and kind of just move out and just do what he was doing. Whereas I was still young and I was under my parents' rule. So so a lot of that, we started, I mean, everything was in church. It started at church. We were going to my uncle's church for a long time together. And then when he left to go university, I had to become the keyboard player. because we didn't have another keyboard player because he was the only one.
Yes.
And it wasn't like I went to some music school or nothing. It was literally, I remember my sister going, "You're going to learn how to play keyboard today." And I was like, "What?" Huh? And she's like, "You're going to," because we didn't have a keyboard player. And then that's when I started playing at the age of 6, 7. And Harmony was on his way to university at this time. And so, but my whole life was in Thamesmead. Everything I knew was Thamesmead. And just like he said, I was traveling to Old Kent Road later on when I got older, because that's where the new church that we started going to was situated, which happened to be a family member that we had known for a long time, which was weird. So it wasn't until like 12, 13 that I started traveling to Old Kent Road to where the KFC is, where all the churches were basically. And I was going to church there. And my time was literally split between Thamesmead and the church at the time. And Harmony wasn't there at the time. He was at another church, which I was at the New Wine Church in Woolwich. So you know where the cinema used to be? New Wine Church? Yeah. So that's where he was the music director there. From a young age. And before they even got to Woolwich, they were in Greenwich. They had a building in Greenwich that he started going to, and he took a liking there, and a pastor at the time, God rest his soul, Pastor Adeyemi, just took him as a son. And, was just like, yeah. And, I would go there when they would have like conventions, and, I would see it. I'd be like, oh, okay, all right. It was very different to the church that I was going to, my uncle's church, because that church had a drum player, it had a bass player, I had everything. I was the only, it was a Casio where you could program the drum on the keyboard. We didn't have a drum. We didn't have no drummer. We had no basses. My sister was the choir leader. Like literally, it was like bare minimum. Do you get what I mean? So for me, being a young kid, it was like you're going to these places and you're seeing a full band on a Sunday service or a convention, and it was just always fun seeing him in his element in that place. So literally, those years from learning how to play keyboard from 6, 7 up until the age of 12, like I was going to my uncle's church, and then 12 up until 24, I was going to my other uncle's church, which was way bigger. It had all the equipment that we didn't have in my uncle's church. And, that's really where like our love for music really, really became like apparent, because, most musicians, most producers that come from church. They start at church. Yeah. That's really where you learn the fundamentals of, music playing, understanding, playing by ear. Like those are where your foundations begin. And that's really where it began. And it kind of started going from there. So
you're saying there's a little bit of an age gap between you.
Yeah.
So you're playing in church. Mo, you're playing in church. Harmony, when do you start doing music as a job, or when do you start producing and getting cuts and like, from just playing around to, wow, my song is actually on this person's project? Or how was it for you, Mo, and how was it for you, Harmony? What was that journey?
I mean, so the first time I ever made a beat, because I didn't even know it was possible. Because you got to remember as well, in early 90s, in the suburbs especially, like, the technology wasn't there. There was no internet. There was like, cell phones just was coming out. Like you had phone booths. Like,
phone booth.
You go to a phone booth for like, Mom, I'm coming, I'll be home in a minute. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you called the house phone. Like, cell phones was a luxury back then. You know what I'm saying? So, unlike now, it's a necessity. So, beat making wasn't even a thing, a thought. And so I was about 12, 13 years old. I started secondary school at St. Columbus. And my music teacher, Miss Ryan, who actually taught me and Moses. So by the time Moses got to secondary school, she taught me too. Yeah. And I remember it's funny, after Moses joined, she was like, you two are very similar, like you're the same person. It was crazy. Yeah. But she showed me. She like took me to like a room, and in the room there was like, you remember the back room, like the back room where But she took me there, and there's a computer in it, and then it's like an Atari computer with a bunch of floppy disks and this one keyboard, It had a drum set in it and a bunch of things. And so she was like, I'm going to teach you how to program instruments. I'm looking at it like, all right. And then she plays the piano and she records it and and then she plays the piano back and I'm like, wait, what? And then she plays the drums on top of the piano and then it plays back and then she plays the bass and she does this all from a keyboard. So I'm like, is this even possible? Like, wait, you're your own band. She was like, yeah. And I said, she's like, that's what producers or composers used to write and score music for film, TV, and albums. Brother, it was like a moth to a flame, like a cocaine addict to crack. I lost my mind, bro. I said, what? Do you know how many ideas is up here? Right. Oh my days. Yeah. She left. I don't think there was a day that didn't go by that I wasn't in that room. Like, I mean, I love sport, but it was either that or sports, and this just trumped it. When I figured out how to do it, about a year or two later, she comes in. She was like, "You're in here all the time. Like, you're not going out to play. You're not, hanging out with your friends. You're in this room. What are you doing?" So I play her some stuff, and she's like, "You did this?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, because I was getting better and better. And she's like, "Harmony, you have the ability and the opportunity to be a really great composer and producer." And I was like, "Woo!" And she was like, go look up what a producer or composer is. And obviously, that's when I found out who Quincy Jones really was. Like, I always knew Quincy Jones as a personality, but I didn't know what he actually did. And that's when I fell in love with him. And I've been following him ever since. And I was like, this is what I want to do. And once I realized, like, wow, Quincy produced, all my favorite albums from Thriller, Off the Wall, you know what I mean? Like, Bad. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. I want to do that. I want to do that. And so my songwriting, producing journey began from that point. And that was 1993, bro. So fast forward, I'm just trying to make it in the music business. And I'm like going to everybody. Like, I start going to radio DJs just to play them my beats because I didn't realize, like, I'm just like, yeah, listen to my beats. And, certain DJs were cool. You know what I mean? CK Flash was a big DJ in Choice FM back then. And he was really cool. And then when I got to Hertfordshire Uni, they had a studio there. So before that, I interned at a bunch of studios and I worked at a bunch of studios. And, I had this dream, even though my parents hated the idea of me doing music, I had this idea in my head, like this vision of me being this guy behind the board. Like, I just kept picturing me behind this board and all these plaques and all these songs that I had buried inside of me that I wanted to get out. Wow. And then when I got to uni, yeah, man, that was when it was like, all right, I'm pursuing this. I found a crew of people. My ex-girlfriend, Chanel, was one of my artists, started developing met this other kid called Truth. He was an Indian boy that could rap his pants off. He sounded like DMX. I was working with him. And then, you know what I mean? And it was just like, and then it was just like the journey began. Like, I just remember, like, and God would always like show up in certain ways to let me know I was going in the right direction. Like, my boy Steven, he owns a company called 6060 Music. He saw me in church one day and he walked up to me and he was like, yo, bro, like, do you make beats? And I was like, yeah. I'm like 19 at the time. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, I knew it. You must make beats. He's like, what can I do to help, like, invest in you? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I just think you're so talented. Like, I see, like, you're going to be something special and I want to invest in it. And I said, bloody hell, all right. And then I was like, I just want a studio. And my first studio in Tottenham, he got me. Wow. My boy, Steven. I'm always indebted to him to this very day. Like, I wouldn't even be the producer I am if it wasn't for Steven taking that risk. And I mean, he paid for that studio for like 5 years and just kept me in there. We bought all the equipment and he was like trying to invest in the artists And that was our first kind of like mini label. We figured out like, all right, that's how we figured out how to really start making it in the music business. And we got some songs played on radio, Choice FM, One Extra, and then One Extra wasn't even around them times. It was Choice FM, Deja Vu, and you know, if you got a Kiss DJ to play your thing, you was doing a local thing still. That's when I found out about the playlisting. It was a real hustle, you know what I mean? And you know, at the time as well, I was really into R&B, but in London, it was funky house, it was garage. So I always felt kind of like out of, I would always say like, hey, you sound like the Americans, you need to go to America. You need to go to America. You need to go to America. I was like, no, but I want to do it here. We could do it too, man. Like we could do it. And so for years, it was a crossfire. I was trying to be accepted, trying to be in the mix. And then, you know, so I remember getting a job at at Choice FM as well. And just trying to just figure out cleaning studio floors at Metropolis, or, you know what I mean? Like, I remember interning for this guy called Chris Neal, who actually was Celine Dion's producer, and Nelly Hooper, who was Gwen Stefani's. And, you know, they were British guys, you know what I mean? Older white guys. But, you know, I would play gigs on Saturdays and Sundays. I would play at church and just wherever I could make. I started doing remixes. So I remember doing remixes for like everybody from like Jamelia to Baby. Yeah, I mean, so it was like every time a pop song came out, there was like, yeah, give Harmony, and I would call it the H Money refix, and they would give me for the urban stations. They would give me the same record to do for the urban stations because they were too pop. And so I would do that. I did that for a long time. You know what I mean? Like I did that for a long time, trying to like figure out my life and trying to figure out how to, you know, really turn this corner. And then America started showing interest. Like I had this British guy called what's his name? Charles. And Jason Charles, JC. Jason Charles came. He was married to Chris Stokes' sister. And Chris Stokes used to have a band called, had a company called TUG. And TUG had, what them boys called again? Omarion and all them.
BTK.
What were they called?
Okay, wow.
Right. So Charles, JC, British guy, was working for Chris Stokes, and he came and heard my things, and he was like, yo, I need to take you to Chris Stokes. So that was the first time I realized like my music was really good and people wanted to hear it. No matter how much, I mean, I did the Jump Off thing, and Jump Off was a big part of my exposure in the UK, and everybody kind of got a name from it. And Marin and them was like trying to buy our records. That's when I was after that. I bumped up with this kid, like he had just broken, like with Oopsie Daisy, he went number one. Oopsie Daisy just went number one. And he was like, I had met him a year before at KFC in Tottenham, and he was like, well, go on, you good, yeah? And I was like, yeah, well, go on. And he was real cool, but he just was in and out because you know, it was hot for him. So, yeah. But I remember him just being real cool, and I was just like, rah. I'm in the studio with him. I was like, you remember me? He's like, hey, you from the KFC? I was like, yeah, man, well, go on. And so first song we did was Look For Me with Talay Riley. That was the first like real chart success that I was like, oh, wow. We're here, Tim. We're here. You know what I mean? And while that was happening, I got discovered by Rodney Darkchild Jerkins. And
so Mo, so in the similar vein, what was your journey into, let's say, professional production, and what were you seeing of your brother whilst you were doing the steps? Like, what essentially was your, I'm in the back room of that school learning how to produce, and what was your brother doing at the time?
You know what's crazy? Everything that he said to you, my life is exactly simultaneous. That's what's really exactly simultaneous. Like, same teacher, staying back after school, sitting in the back room, making beats, you know, getting used to Cubase, like, you know what I mean? Understanding that I can now, like, you know, program music on this software or this thing and then play it back to myself. And, you know, hit everything as one rather than everything as separate. It was literally that. We went to the same primary school. We went to the same secondary school. And it was, so at secondary school, you don't really know what you want to. Some people do, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. The most I wanted to do at the time was play football.
Okay.
That's what most 11 to 15-year-olds want to do. Play football,
Mm-hmm.
and play basketball. And I remember being 13 years old and playing for, I was what, year 8, and I was playing for year 9, year 10, year 11.
Yeah.
Like, you're that good. We're going to football team, basketball team, you know, they were making me play for the years above. So it was, you know, that notion. And, you know, I had, just like my brother had, when he was playing football, he had Arsenal interested in him. I had Charlton Athletic that came to my school to come and, as scouts, to come and watch. So it was like, okay, this could be. And then, you know, like you said, you know, when your parents don't know much more than what they know, those sort of, you know, fields are not lucrative. You know, they're not something that you can say, yes, my child is a football player and it's accepted in our culture. So I just remember my teacher always calling my parents like, can he please play today? Because I would come in and they'll be like, are you playing today? And I'm like, you know, I can't. So why are you? Yeah, because I'd already asked and my mom was like, you can't play. So I would have to get the teachers to pick up the phone to call and be like, can he play, please? We really, like, you have to stress that you really need me for me to play. And it was crazy because the days that I wasn't planning to play, I had no kit. So I was borrowing like school shorts and boots that they had at school.
Yeah.
I was, in my brain, I wasn't going to play. So, and then it gets to like year 10, year 11, you know, 15, 16, you're a little more aware of who you are now at this point.
Yeah.
First girlfriend, all of that stuff starts happening, you know what I mean? And and I just remember doing music as a GCSE.
Okay.
And I think I got an A, and I was just like, okay, you know what I mean? But I was still battling between this music, this love for music, but like, you know, wanting to do these other sports, and then having my parents tell me that, well, you need to think about something else. And I remember from my work experience, I worked in a pharmacy because I was like, all right, well, if there is something that I'm gonna do, pharmacy sounds cool.
Yeah,
I'm decent at chemistry.
Yeah,
you know, I could scale through and maybe get a degree in it, you know. I got to college. And it was just like, I'm studying music again, but I was doing music alongside all of these sciences. That was the only thing that I had. I had music tech, and then had biology, chemistry, and it was just, the cross was just, it didn't make no sense. It's like, and then all practical. It didn't make no sense. So, and then I remember getting my A-levels, and I think my chemistry and biology was like C and D, but then my music was like A. And it was just like, okay. And this, I had obviously done my work experience at this time, and you know what I mean, it was just like, pharmacy, you know, can I see myself wearing a lab coat? Nah, I can't. You know what I mean? So once college was done, it was then that I wasn't even, it was crazy because my teachers had said to my parents, he's not going to university, like he's not going grades. And it was like, I already had in my brain I wanted to do music, but my parents didn't know this. They didn't have a clue, you know what I mean? So whatever grades that I got for chemistry and biology weren't enough for me to get into the university. Let me do it. So I remember the teacher, them coming in there like, he's not going to university, like, we don't know what he's gonna do. And obviously in my brain, I was like, I'm going. Like, you know, I was like, I'm gonna go through clearing and I'm gonna go. And I was already planning in my brain to do music tech anyway. So I remember that summer, you know, just before college, university starts, my parents were just like, so what are you gonna do? And I'm like, I don't know. I remember they were so frustrated. My brother was still living in London at this time. They called him. They were like, we don't know what he's gonna do. You need to come to the house and come and talk to him. By this time, I'd already got my acceptance form from Hertfordshire University.
Is it?
So I was being smart, like, all right, cool. I'm not gonna do anything. Cool. I'm gonna get the form and I'm gonna hide it. So I remember getting it and I hid it. And I remember this just sitting. So my brother came home and they were like, you know, we don't know what he's gonna do. And the teacher that I had at Hertfordshire University was the same teacher that Harmony had at Hertfordshire University.
Man.
And that's what I was saying to you. Our stories are so simultaneous. It's actually
yeah.
Same teacher in secondary school, same teacher in university. The only thing that was different was we went to different colleges. But the colleges that we both went to were not far from each other. He went to Orpington College. I went to St. Luke's College, which is the second college of St. Christ the King, the second one that they built. So I remember getting the form. My brother was like, "So look at me. Are you going to university?" I said, "Yes." He's like, "You have evidence?" I said, "Yes." Don't get it. So I've already received the form, everything. So I've gone upstairs to my room. I even took some time, like as if I couldn't find it. I knew exactly where it was. I knew everything. I brought it down and I gave it to him, and he opened it. He was just like, "Well, it says here that he's been accepted." And I just remember my parents going, you know, we didn't know, we thought. And I was just sitting there like, yeah, sure. So, and then that was the crossover. Now, up until this point, I had already met Mikey, right?
Okay, so you've met Mikey at this point.
I'd already met Mikey. So me and Mikey, and when they say like everything is already predestined before it's happened, right? I'm a firm believer of that. And I always believe that God will bring someone into your life at a specific point to meet them, but that's not the point that they're meant to be in your life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So Mikey and I had met at my uncle's church. Remember I told you my mom's brother had a church?
Yeah.
Right. In the period that we was there, we had moved from one building to another building. The building that we were previously was one that wasn't owned by us. And so, a lot of those leisure centers, you have a time slot that you can be in and you have to leave.
Yeah, you got to convert. Yeah.
Right. So that church at that time, we could only use from like 2 in the afternoon till 6 in the evening. So when the church had generated a bit more money, we ended up moving to a bigger building, which they now owned.
Lovely. Yeah.
We had morning service. I used to hate having afternoon service. We have morning service now. And I remember Mikey said there was one year where we had like a convention where he came. And till today, I don't remember meeting him, but he was like, "Bro, I remember meeting you. I remember us sitting outside and you gave me a tango." He was like, "You want something to drink?" And I went to go get him a tango and I gave it to him. And he tells me the story. And I'm like, "Really? Damn, interesting. Well, thank God I didn't do anything bad." You know what I mean? So, and then when we got to my other uncle's church, the one I was telling you, the bigger one on Oak Kent Road, a year into me being there, he came with his mum. And I remember, so at this point, I was already on stage playing. The pastor has 6 kids, 4 of them were boys. 4 boys. And literally the age gap is the same as Harmony, my brother, my sister, my other brother, then me, all the same. The oldest brother was my brother's age, the second brother was my sister's age, the third brother was it's literally like that. So the time that I got to the church, Harmony was already in the church I told you that was in Woolwich. So, and we had known their family for a while because Harmony used to hang around with them. He used to go to school with them. So when I got there, it was just like, oh yeah, that's the younger brother. And I almost fitted in easy. And they literally just threw me in the deep end. Like, you're going to be playing keys on Sunday. You're going to be playing second boards because the pastor's first son was the main keyboard player. You're going to be playing second boards. Cool. So a year into being there, Mikey comes. And I come off stage one day and he tells a story that he's with his boys and he says to his boys, "Oh, I know that guy. Like, I went to his church. What's up to him?" And his boys were like, "You don't know him. Like, stop pretending." No, he's come over and he's like, "Yo, Mo, like, do you remember me like that?" And I'm just like, bro. And he tells the story. He's just like, "Yeah, you kind of buoyed me." And I was like, I probably didn't even remember because at that age, so much has happened. Like, so much is happening. There's so much like differences. You're 13, 14 years old. You're meeting. And then he starts coming to the church. And then maybe a year and a half later, he joined. He's a drummer. So he jumps in and starts playing drums for the choir. Right. And we literally just bonded. We became really close, but we didn't start making music yet.
Okay.
At this point, it was just, we're in church for choir. He plays drums, I play keys. And he didn't play every Sunday because the pastor's second oldest son was the drummer of the church. So it was literally like he was coming, but he wasn't a part of the choir. So literally from the age of 13, 14, we just started building our relationship. Like it just started building, going college, going to university. And I remember me and Mikey was on a church retreat, Mike and I. And when we were on the way there, we were just complaining about how the music industry was moving, you know, where maybe 18, 19 at this point. He's going to Bucks University. I'm in Hertfordshire. We just upset, like, what? Like, ain't no one's giving us an opportunity now. And obviously around this time, 2009 when we started, was when Harmony was discovered by Rodney and was in the process of moving to America.
Got you. So have you watched Harmony do stuff before then?
So remember, I was young, so I couldn't go to a lot of places. I couldn't be around, you know. It was very sparse that I would travel from Thamesmead all the way to North London to his studio, you know what I mean? And you know, I didn't go to any jump off shows. I would only just watch the videos. Right. And on you know, I just watch it, and you know, just seeing him win that and all of this stuff, it was like, wow, my brother's really like making moves. And you know, it's 2004. I'm 24 years old. Do you get what I mean? So the internet and all of that stuff, I think, wasn't even really prominent like that. It was, but it wasn't like that. Do you get what I mean? I think everyone was still like on MSN and, you know what I'm saying, and all of those kind of things. And
MySpace days
and all of that stuff. Exactly. So he was winning, so, and I was hearing, and I'm even being at school, like I didn't really see him as much because he lived so far away. And I remember like there would be times where he would just pull up to my school and come to my sports day, and I'd be like, raw, this guy that I don't really see is at my school. What the heck? So me and Mike and I were on a school retreat, a church retreat, and we were just kind of tired at the time with just how the music industry was, you know, not that we had necessarily experienced anything bad, but it was just, we were trying to make our way through, and it just wasn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't anything. And I remember sitting on stage and we're like, let's be a duo. Like, it's like, let's be a duo. And I remember us being on stage and we were going through names of just different names. And I remember us saying SOS and that sticking. And you know, whenever you see SOS, it's like emergency, like it's like, and that's really what it was. We didn't have, it was just an acronym. There was no real meaning behind what SOS was. It was just SOS. You get what I mean? And and then we literally just, once that happened, Harmony had moved to LA by this point. And up until this point, I hadn't spoken to Harmony for maybe like 3 or 4 years because because it was just, at the time, like there was so much like, you know, disparity with the idea of him doing music in my family. And do you get what I'm trying to say? And we were just, it was hard to kind of like go and see him because, you know,
basically my parents didn't want me to be around my brother. To influence him to make the same mistakes that I made by going in the music business, because they looked at it like I was making a mistake.
Got you. So for you, Harmony, then this is a good place to pass it back. So you sort of broke down the doors with your family and whatnot. At what point? So you said you've got this 2-3 year period where you have not really speaking to each other. Your family is not really pro you doing music. But how far had you got, and what was you doing at that time? Like, was it just like, if only they can see, like, if they can understand?
Listen, my brother, let me tell you the one thing that happens with me. And it's always, I realized I was uniquely born, and I was like, I'm just different. When I want to do something, nothing in this world's going to stop me from doing it.
Right.
Nothing in this world. I will walk away from my family if I have to go get there, because I know later on they'll see what I'm trying to do. And that's exactly. So there was a few things I had to break. I had to break the family curse of, number one, poverty, because we had a poverty mindset. You know what I'm saying? We grew up surviving. My parents were immigrants, Nigerian immigrants, surviving. You know what I mean? I remember my dad, you know, having multiple names, trying to get through you know what I mean? Just trying to get through and just survive. My dad had 3 jobs. My mom had a nanny business. Like, they did everything. The fact that they even had a house in the suburbs, 4-bedroom house in the suburbs, was a miracle. Just, you know what I'm saying? But they had reached their final goal. They were done. They had done everything they could. And for me, the world was bigger in my eyes. The dreams were bigger. And everything my parents said, you know, everything my parents wanted me to, how they wanted me to get there, I didn't see it the same way. Like, I was like, I'm not going to drive, you know, $100,000, $200,000 cars by, you know, working as a doctor somewhere. I just didn't see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wanted to do different things. I wanted to travel. I wanted to, and my creative juices were crazy. My imagination was crazy. Like the way I would see things, think things, hear things, and they would come to life. So it was weird. So I had to break that mold and prove to them. Then I had to prove to the country, because the country had some like a ceiling, like it just wouldn't let you go any further than a certain point back then. Like the way we're thriving as British young Black entrepreneurs and business people, Jamaican, Caribbean, African. I'm so happy, I'm proud, because we're getting outside of ourselves, we're getting outside of the box. But at one point, it was like the government figured out how to clip our wings and keep us like grateful for the little that we had. And I just wasn't on the small things. I just wasn't on it. So for about 3-4 years, me and my brother, like I wanted a relationship with my brother. Me and my brother were very close. Like we slept in the same bed for years. You know what I'm saying? I would take my brother everywhere I went. I took Moses with me when he was a kid. Everywhere I went, if it was college, if it was whatever, if he wasn't going to school or he had a day off, he was with me. Like we were twins. And then obviously my parents kind of wedged a little discrepancy between us because he was still very young and they didn't want me to influence him the wrong way. Yeah. I wasn't doing anything crazy. I had this belief in music and they just felt like music was a failure. So for the longest part, so I said, Bunny, in it. I was like, I'm gonna do it my way, in it. And then I just went mad, and it just fueled me every time. Like every time I thought about them, I just got angry inside and was like, watch. And every competition from Jump Off, every radio station I went to, I just went. My music just was mad. And you just couldn't stop it. And so when I finally made it to LA and everything I found myself, it wasn't just an idea no more. It was real champion had come out. I'd proven that a British youth could go to America and do it. And I wasn't the only one. Like, you know, there was a few of us. Dreddy was another producer who came out here and did things. And my other brethren, Alex the Kid, who grew up in North London too, came out there. So there was, you know, I can't take credit by myself, but I definitely played a big role, you know what I mean, in making the British culture, British Black culture, in production, songwriting, and just being able to cross over and do different things. I definitely played a big role in showing them that it was possible, because I was not no rich boy. I was a nigga from the hood that man them knew was working his ass off in Tottenham trying to make it. And to see me on stage with man like Chris Brown and Brandy and all of them, I knew that it was gonna bust a door open. I mean, and you gotta remember at that time we was bringing Chip. We brought Chip over, we brought Wretch over, we brought Stormzy over. Them man had never been to Skepta. They never been out there. At the time that we came, we would live. I was living there. They'd never been. They were coming out there to work with us. You see me? Because I was working on Chip's album. So for me, there was I felt like we played a big part and a role in that. But then when I moved out there, I reached back out to Mo. I was like, Mo, it's time. Come back. Come link me. And Mo came to link.
That was after the 2-3 year period now.
Yeah. It was like
now just to counteract what Harmony's saying, I remember being 7 years old and he was moving out and I was in tears and I was like, don't leave. No, for real. I was like, don't leave. And he was like, I have to go, but I'm coming back to get you. I will never forget those words. He's like, I'm coming to get you. I just have to do this right now. You know what I mean? And it was like he was saying, you know, it was that position where he had to really just rebel in order to be able to go on and do what he wanted to do, because, you know, the powers that be at the time weren't allowing it to be. So he literally had to go against the grain. And I just felt like he was leaving me behind and I was begging him not to leave. And the view of that day is still very, very much present in my head. I know a car he was driving. I knew that he all his clothes in a black bag. Everything about that day I remember vividly. I even remember what was on TV that day.
Wow.
He was watching Titanic. So you know that everything about that moment was just emotional. Like everything was sensitive. And so, you know, fast forward to not speaking for a period of time to then him going, I'm in LA, come to LA. And I'm like, yo, where? Wait, the only LA I know is Bel Air. Like, I'm from Bel Air, bro. I don't know. And he's just like, bro, French Miss Bel Air. I'm like, where? It's like, all right, cool. I'm going to come to LA. And I jumped on a plane, bro. And the first time I went, I didn't even go with Mike. It was just me by myself. And I remember it was like a long flight. I'd never got on a plane by myself for such a long duration of time. And then I end up in this place where it's just boiling, like the sun is kicking off. And I'm like, and you're seeing yellow cars. You got to understand, there was no FaceTime. There was no Uber. There was no Lyft. There was nothing at this time.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
There was none of that.
Yellow cabs.
Yeah.
Yellow cabs.
Yellow cabs. So it was just like, where the heck am I? Like, huh?
Wow.
And yeah, I just remember like.
How old at this time?
I was 21.
20. You and Mike, you've started SOS. You're producing for people at this time?
Right. So we had started SOS at this point, right? We are at university. I'm working, we're both working with a lot of gospel artists at this time because it was through the church way that we were making music. Yeah. So it was easy to get in the studio with a lot of gospel artists. We weren't doing anyone like really commercial like that or anyone of that caliber. The only person I can think of that was kind of starting coming around at that time was Darren B.
Okay.
Do you know they had that big record in London called Stand By You, right?
Yeah.
And he happened to, the reason why that even happened was because my boy, shout out David Pristus, we were at uni together, living in the same house. And David knew my brother. And that's why I said everything that transpired at that time was weird, because it was like, you've known my brother before I even knew who you were. But when we linked up, it felt like we knew each other for a long period of time. And we ended up living in the same house. And, you know, he was kind of managing Mike and I for a bit. And that's how I met Darren B. And all of these sessions that was happening at my uni house, in my room. And in Mikey's house, it was happening at his room. Do you get what I mean? So Mike we hadn't gone to LA. We hadn't worked with anybody. We hadn't done anything prominently at that time. We were literally just doing SOS. We were actually a production group, which had another singer-songwriter and a girl and a singer-songwriter guy. So it was 4 of us. And all we were doing was we were doing songs that we're putting on YouTube that we were just spreading to universities. We had a song called Student Loan. We had there was just things that we were doing that was just generating like very, very small amounts of like attention at the time. Yeah. Exactly. And then, so my brother was like, yo, like, I'm in LA, come. And I'm like,
so Harmony, at that time when you invite your brother to LA, you invite Mo to LA, how much had you cracked it? How much were you in your stride? Like, how comfortable was you within yourself in terms of what you're doing? And how much was you still figuring it out? Because now you're like, big bro, I'm about to show my brother. But what was like, what did you work on / working on?
I mean, at the time, I think I just built my studio. So Mo came and was seeing my studio being built. And I mean, it's a massive 6-room complex, you know what I mean? And we only had just built 1 room. So I was showing him around. So I know he was like, wait, what?
What the?
You know what I'm saying? And you know, we had just done Chip's album Transition, that done well, just worked on the Fame album. And then I was working on a bunch of like new acts, like so this kid called Jacob Lattimore, that's now on The Shy, big TV show called The Shy as an actor. I was working on TV shows, I was working on movies, I was working with Kelly Rowland, I was working with Fantasia, and I was just about starting to work with Ariana Grande.
Okay.
So it was.
So you had gone clear, like you was
I was nah, and it wasn't. You know,
no.
it's funny because it wasn't even. We were still on. It was still on the rise. You get me? Because it was like it was still a rise thing because I had an idea in my head, and I don't even remember. Like I was so focused on where I was going.
Yeah.
Like when I left London, I was very upset. I was very hurt, and I was very upset. I was upset at my parents. I was upset at culture. I was upset on the music business. I was upset they didn't really give us no respect as Black people in the music business. And I had to leave and come to some foreign land to do the same music. You know what I'm saying? And then I was angry because these men in America were looking at me like, oh, you're from London. And they gave me this strange look like, oh, so you make house music or you make this. They pigeonholed me or it was almost like, so I was like, bare disrespect from everywhere. So I was just on a mad one, like, yeah, bun everyone then, innit? Like, I'm just gonna bun everyone every time I get. My brother used to be like, hey, why are you so angry? And I used to be just like, bruv, I'm so much to prove because the disrespect everywhere. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it really fueled it. And I needed it. I know God allowed me to have it so I could push through and be who I was gonna be. But then at some point I had to change it. Do you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I didn't realize I was at that point. And so when Mo comes, I'm just like, all right, you man, you're next. Get in line.
Yeah. Straight in the deep end.
I was on some sergeant. We're not having it. No prisoners. Kill everybody. Don't, you know what I'm saying?
For real.
No one's your friend. Bun them. Bun everybody. Yeah. Bun them. If you're in the studio, make sure it's the maddest tune ever. And then man, they was looking at me like, hey, are you all right? And I was just like, listen. And I was like, nah, I'm not. And I would play records and Moses was like, hey, what the hell is that? Like, and I was playing big songs. Like, they were looking at me like, how are you making these songs, bro? And it was just like, I was being fed off a different adrenaline because the fact that I had made it that far and the fact that I was now, you know, talking to Jay-Z and, you know, friends with Kelly Rowland and, you know, breaking artists that nobody ever heard of. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a lot. Do you know what I'm saying? It was big for me. So it just made me want to go more. And I wanted my brothers to go hard. I wanted anybody that came through the door. Like even when we went and got Chris Brown and Chipmunk together, like that was deliberate. We wanted to let the UK know we do this. We do it and you can do it. Do you know what I'm saying? You can do it. And that's what we did. And so watch after that, Bearman was coming out here doing features, and now it's like UK man and American man's one bag of brethren.
Yeah.
And everybody's cool, innit? So, you know what I'm saying? From film and TV all the way to now we're all homies, innit? But, you know what I'm saying? It took some beating. It took a beating. It took us a lot of fighting and we had to fight for our respect. And you know what I mean? So, yeah, no, it was hard. It was hard.
So that first trip, this is a question for like the both of you. Are you collaborating with Mo at that time yet, or is Mo just looking at everything? Like, are you having sessions where, like, Mo, like, do touch this up, or what do you think? You're not yet.
That 2011 to 13 was literally me in the deep end, just doing this. Like, you gotta understand, like, Mike and I was gaining momentum in some sort of way, like in terms of like, the confidence to be able to make tunes, records, right? So we're doing this, and then I end up in Los Angeles, and I'm like, I got like 25 songs that I know are good.
Yeah.
And I'm playing them, and I swear to you, my brother plays 3, and my whole world shattered, and I'm like.
It's
I'm not levels. I'm not levels. And I remember because Mikey wasn't even there yet. And I remember Skyping Mike, and I'm like, bro, it's a different thing out here. Let me just let you know. And I remember Mikey with, you know, bless him, he was just like, yeah, I know, but when man, like, we'll do what we do. And I'm like, I'm telling you now, listen to me very well. The levels is different. Like, it was different. So I was literally in school, 2011 to the ending of 2012, beginning of 13, and I was still at university, and I ended up doing my dissertation
in
LA with all of these known artists at the time that my brother was working with, which was super cool. So I was in school, It was literally just because everything that I thought I knew or everything I thought I was good at, someone just completely shattered all of it and just was like, nah, for every bad man, there's a badder man.
Yeah.
So it was just like, all right, cool. And then, so 2013 rolls around, and between 11 to 13, we're just going back and forth to LA because we're still in university.
Okay,
so summer, we're in LA. There's a period in October or November where you're off, LA. Period in February where you're off, LA. Like
both of you now.
Yeah, so so I go first by myself in 2011.
Yeah.
2012, Mike comes.
Nice.
Right? And then I remember Mikey getting there, and I remember him, it's being like, we're gonna do SOS, and then H press play, and he was just like, I get it now. I get what you're saying. I get it. We would, and then it was just literally back and forth. At the time, my brother was in a 2-bedroom apartment. And literally,
I remember that.
And me and Mikey were crashing together in the room. Do you get what I mean? Just happy to be there, just happy to be in LA, seeing all of this stuff that we'd never seen before. We would come back to London and we'd be telling people like LA is different. Like we were telling at the time, everything, and what was crazy was everything that we was seeing and learning in LA, we were trying to replicate in London. So writing camps, we had never known what a writing camp was. We were trying to replicate that in London. Owning your own studio, getting your own studio. We had never seen anything like this in London. We hadn't seen this in LA. We're trying to replicate this in London. So everything that we were seeing at the time, we were just trying to just build something similar or create something like that in London because that's where we lived. Moving to LA wasn't even a figure of imagination. Even though my brother was suggesting it, we were like, nah, we're not going to LA. We're from London. You get me? Man says like, boys, you know what I mean? Like all of that stuff was so much more important to us at the time. And so it was not till 2013 comes around that Harmony was like, I'm working at Ariana Grande. I'm gonna put you on this album. And we were like, huh?
So wait, Harmony, what have you seen at that point that you're thinking, all right, they're ready for the call up?
Well, one, I saw the hunger. Like they were sending me tracks, sending me music. They would send me like different songs and I would just be like, Lord, Claude. And I would just be like, yeah, their man is hungry. And I just felt the heat like coming from them. Like, yeah, they were determined to be like in the same box, which I appreciated because I needed them to be there and they needed to succeed. And so I was working on Ariana Grande and I was like, this is an opportunity to spread the wealth and the partnership. And this is the way I could get them over here and get them a part of what I'm building. You know what I mean? So I just took it as and that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to spread the wealth, innit? You're not supposed to keep it to yourself. So I was working on it and I was like, yeah, you man, I'm gonna put you on these songs here and they're gonna work on it. She's gonna be big. And they was like, for real. And they didn't even know who she was at the time. And then a year later, they got plaques and we got plaques and she sold what? 1 million records and everybody's like, Lord.
Literally, yeah. So for you, Mikey, or for the both of you, what was this a break at that stage? So Harmony, you've built the studio, you've gone from the 1 room to the 6. What was your break? And then Mo and Mikey, what was your break in tandem with each other?
Yeah, the Ari was the break for me. Okay. Ari was the one that Ariana Grande was the one that set the name super producer came from that name, from that. As soon as she broke, I became that guy. Because it's one thing to work with established artists. It's another thing to break an artist that no one knows. And, and my songs were being played in every country. Those songs were breaking in like every country across the world. She broke globally. I remember I knew it was big when I drove home. I mean, this happens a lot, but when I drove home in London and I heard her song come on the radio like 12 times back to back, I said, oh my days, we're done. This is done. This is different. Yeah. And I remember my brother kept saying, hey, this Ariana Grande thing is big. And I was like, bro, life changing. Like it literally changed my life. And yeah, that was breakpoint for me.
Yeah. So Mo, must have been a big moment for you as well to be involved. But what was your equivalent in your space, in your area?
See, it's weird. It's interesting because remember I told you, I'd said that me and Mikey felt a particular type of way towards the music industry in the UK, similar to how Harmony felt. So in 2013, when this Ariana Grande situation happened, she was #1 in like 50 countries. You know, she was the new Mariah Carey. It was just like, oh my goodness, what? And then to be a part of it was just like, okay, now if we go back to London, we should get some form of
put some respect on my name.
Like, you get what I mean? Because one of the things that we know London for is a lot of these A&Rs execs don't only mess with people when you have credentials and numbers to go against it. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, it was like, if it wasn't that you had a #1 or something, then we didn't care whether you were talented or not. Talent isn't something that they were they weren't like pushing at the time. It was just like, you hang around with this person, so you must be someone, or you've got a #1 or #5 top 10. Cool, we're interested. So we were like, all right, well, we've got the credential now, so when we go back to London, we should be able to walk into buildings, have meetings, and people should take us seriously. We should be able to get a publishing deal. All of these things were running through our head. We get back to London, Rob, we go to meetings. We're like, so we're #1 in 50 countries. They're like, we don't care. Is she big hair? And we were like, what? They were like, we don't know who she is, because she wasn't an international superstar, like on that level. Even though she was #1 in these many countries, she still wasn't known.
Like, okay.
So they were like, who is she? Like, and we're trying to be like, she's this, she's that. Yeah. She's not big hair. Well, so we were so frustrated beyond anything. We're like, really cool. So ending of 2013, we get, I remember hitting H and said, yo, H, like, we've got a session with Young Spray. Right? And I remember H going, please, just be careful. Just please. I've known Young Spray for a long time. That's the brother. Just, he now, the thing about having an older brother like that is whenever you move in certain areas, you're usually good. So at some points, like Chip was having birthdays, and Chip had come to my mom's house a couple of years before that to work on music. Harmony had already set that up. So that was like a big thing. And it was just like, okay, we're working with Chip. And then he had a few parties, like birthday parties that would happen. And every time that Mike and I would go and get there, Spray or Stitch or Wretch, all these people would be like, well, Harmony's brothers, you're coming, come in now. Like, it was always because of who he was. So the end of 2013, the manager that we had at the time was also a good friend of ours at the time and was close to Young Spray. So Young Spray is like, yo, I want to get in with the boys. I want to do a tune, and I want the song to feature Wretch and Chip. So we were like, so Mike and I were like, yo, this is the perfect moment for us to get in with Wretch, because Wretch had Don't Go at the time. He just had, Wretch was still in that position of his life where he was blowing up, right? He was still selling like iTunes, CDs and stuff and whatnot. So I remember going to Mike and I had the idea that, all right, we'll do the song for Spray, featuring them, but we'll use that as an opportunity. So we get in the studio, we make the tune. The tune was called Proud. It was Young Spray featuring Chip and Wretch. And after the session, we were like, yo, Wretch, like, bro, we'd love to get in with you. He's like, yeah, man, you man are dope. And furthermore, like, your Harmony's brothers, like, this is happening. There's no question. So the year turns over, 2014, and we're working with Wretch, like,
nice,
like working. And then I remember while we was working with Wretch, have you ever heard of that situation where you're working with an artist and when they finish working with you, they give you their merchandise? So we had done like 4 songs for Wretch. So we were like, all right, cool, we've done 4 songs. Hopefully, like, at least 2 should get on the album, innit?
Yeah.
I remember he comes to the studio and he gives us his renowned merchant hat, the merchandise hat, to be like, yo, thank you for working on the project. Da, 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 da. Yeah, like whatever he was looking for, either he didn't find it or he had found it. We didn't know.
Yeah.
And then me and Mikey bust out to LA.
Okay, cool.
So that's where we got up to. It gets to that point. And then we get to LA, and then I see this is 2014. And then obviously Instagram is picking up at this point. Social media is really starting to pick up slowly but surely. And I remember I seen Wretch still in sessions. And I'm like, nah, Wretch don't rate us, bro.
Yeah.
What? He thinks we're crap. Like, he told us his album's done and he's still in sessions.
Yeah.
I remember hitting him and I was like, Free, like, I thought you're done. He's like, yeah, I've told people that I'm finished, but I'm still looking for a single and I really mess with you, man. So yeah, I'll definitely get back in once you come back.
Yeah.
Cool. We got back, I think it was March, bro. By April, we made 6 words. And I'll never, ever forget that session because the song was finished written before we made the beat. Like, we only had the chords playing. The song was written. Shout out to Varun Wade that wrote the song with Wretch.
Big up Wade.
Big up Wade. The song was already written before we had even finished making the beat. And I remember Wretch looking at me and Mike and go, this is the one. This is the one. Like, this is the one. Literally. From then, for 2 weeks, he was bringing people. Twin came to the studio.
Yeah.
Ricky Blue. Everyone was coming to the studio to hear this song that Wretch had. Because you know how the industry works. Once someone's got something hot at the time, everyone's talking about it.
Everyone's got to come around it. Yeah.
So it was like, yeah, Wretch has got the next single is about to be a madness. Da, 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 da. That's April. The single didn't come out until September, October. You know what I'm trying to say? So we were just gassed for like 6 months that he was like, it's my single, like it's the next one happening. And we were working at my church's studio at the time. So my church, my pastor's son, remember I told you the 4 boys?
The 4 boys, yeah.
The third one was also a producer at the time. And he had a studio at the top of the church. So we just, because we didn't have any studio to use, we would go there and just have sessions. And it was good for him because we were bringing these A-star artists to the studio. So it was just worked out perfectly. So we were using that place for a long time. So once we had 6 words, it kind of helped us start shaping this album that didn't actually see light of day until 2016, which is crazy. Growing Over Life didn't come out until 2016.
2016, yeah. So the quality of sound was
different. Exactly. So we would just, once we had 6 words, it was like, Rich was like, okay, you man, I respect you, man. Like, you man are you man are the guys. And we just literally kept on working, and then it started shaping the album. We started making all these songs, and then next minute, by the end of 2014, beginning of 15, we had the majority of that album done, and then we moved studios. So we found a studio in East London. It was Phil Collins' old trailer.
Wow.
It was his tour bus. The tour bus was he had turned it into a studio.
Wow.
So we had found it. We had somehow found it at the back of another church. There was another church in a car park, and it was just sitting there, and it was a studio. And I remember we haggled the guy for the price.
Mazza.
Haggled him for the price. You know, he had an SSL desk in there that we told him to take out because we didn't need it. It was crazy. And then Wretch came there, we finished the album, and then 2016, the album came out, and it was just like, it was a hip hop gospel album.
Yeah.
It was that. Do you get what I mean? And it went number 4. So we had a single that was number 5 and an album that was number 4. And it was just like, wow. And then that's when things kind of started opening up. And then Prept and Conan, and then, you know, Stormzy wasn't even really picking up steam at this point. Like,
This is
I mean, he only kind of started picking up ending of 2015, and Stormzy was coming to Wretch sessions to watch Wretch. Because look, everything that his first album sounds like is because he had Growing Over Life first. He was coming, you know, it's got, you know, that first Gang Signs of Prayer, a lot of gospel Christian influences, because he was listening to the same music that we were making for Wretch. And he was flying to LA while we were there to work with us, because we were still going back and forth to LA. So he was flying out there. So he was only just picking up steam. I remember he was still driving the Black Megane. He was coming to Mikey's mom's house to record. So the Wretch situation was really where, like, in the UK, we had started picking up steam, like, and other artists were like, we want to work with you guys. And then, you know, Tiny came.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. So that was literally our first break in London.
I feel like we would have to even do a part 2 because we haven't even caught up to today. But
there's some mad stuff. I'm telling you, like, just hearing more story. I'm like, yeah, that was a madness thing.
Mad.
Yeah,
it was mad.
So let me touch on a few more points before we go because I don't want to keep you guys too long. Harmony, for you, yeah, big bro, trailblazer, bust the door, set the foundations, angry, all of this hurt and whatnot. How did you let that go, and what was that like for you guys as a family, reconciliation wise, or what does that look like now? What was that part of the story for you guys?
Oh yeah, so I remember my dad. So I remember like my dad just like apologized, like me and my dad rekindled our relationship. You know what I'm saying? That was kind of where the pain kind of like had to like go and I moved on to a different thing because it was like I was so angry for so long. It was causing me problems like I was having relationship problems. It wasn't allowing me to socialize because I was so fixated on winning. You know what I'm saying? Because I wanted to prove to everybody like I was the best and that anything that I touch goes.
Yeah.
And so then at one point after Ariana Grande went #1, Fantasia went #1, and I remember I had like 100 records out, 100 single songs out, like two albums that went #1 and like 5 top 10s in 1 year. And I was just exhausted and I was unhappy. Like I was unhappy, bro. Like I was like, well, I did all this work and I don't feel different. And that's when I knew I had to change everything. And I had to let go of the pain, man. And then I just found a new way of like energize, like putting love into my teams, getting real close with my brothers and just doing it from a different place. And like I said, I called my dad one day. I remember being in church and I heard from God, it's like, you got to forgive your dad, mate. Because if you want to go any further, if you want to be any more successful and go any further than you've gone right now, forgiveness is the only way to get it. And that's it. And that was it for me. And I remember calling my dad and, you know, I mean, we patched it up. I patched up with my family. And even though everything was not perfect, the fact that they understood they made a mistake but I also understood they were just trying to keep me safe. You know what I'm saying? It was just love. You know what I mean? And, you know, it's perspective in it. You know, when you put your guard down and you put your hurt down and the anger and you calm down from your anger, you can actually see it from another person's side. And I realized they weren't trying to hurt me. They were trying to protect me. And that was their way of doing it. There was lack of knowledge, but actually, you know, it was actually useful because it helped me be able to like become the man I am today. And that's it. And so, you know, and then, you know, I just wanted to encourage all the younger ones beneath me to do it better than me, to do better than I did, to do it with a better mindset and a clearer mindset, and to go for everything they believed in. And my brothers was my first task. And, you know, seeing them like, now I'm teaching them how to expand it. You know, I'm teaching these young boys how to like go from not just music, go into film and TV, go into entrepreneurship and go into different avenues and not just be focused on one thing, but have multiple forms of income and, you know, being creative all around, not just like, oh, you know what I mean? You're just a producer. We're bigger than that. It's bigger than that. You know what I mean? And so that's what it is for me. That's where I've been. But yeah, man, I had to really like learn to forgive the first problem, which was, you know, my parents, and then forgive my country and realize like, you know, we were systematically oppressed by a very racist operation. And it forced us to do things the only way we can, you know what I mean? So, but once again, I'm grateful for it too, because it also helped me become the man I am today. And I was able to fight and do things that others haven't been able to do. But I also was able to open the door for a lot of people who needed me as an example. You know what I mean? That's it.
And for you, Mo, what was it like seeing that part of you guys' journey?
In terms of like reconnecting in that way, or
reconnecting, the forgiveness, like Harmony's letting that guard down, softening. What was that part of the story for you from your perspective?
Man, it was, I don't know what the best word to to explain it, because you gotta understand, like, my brother for a long time had seen me as his younger brother. He had seen me as that's young Mo or young H. Do you get what I mean? And then the transition to my 20s, where I'm becoming a young man, it was difficult. Do you get what I mean? Because it's like, well, I hadn't seen you in 3-4 years. I literally went from being a teenager to a young adult. Yeah. And so it was just like I was coming into my own, and I felt like I had a lot to prove. I felt like, you know, there was always the idea that, oh, you're H's brother, so, you know, like, yeah, you're H's brother, so what you have to say doesn't really matter. And on top of that, I'm the last born in my family, so the last born is usually the one that doesn't really get the opportunity to say or do. So, you know, transitioning from that point and everything we'd been through to a point where, like, you know, there was so much growth and so much understanding, because, you know, like, in order to know where you're going, you have to know where you're coming from. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And, like, to be able to get to a point in our growth spurt where it was just like, all right, let's lay the arms down. All right. After all the arguments, after all the disagreements and everything, it was like, okay, cool. Because the situation with my parents was one thing, and then we had our own figuring out situation that we had to do, because it was like, Mufasa and Simba. And Simba's like, no, and Mufasa's like, I'm the big dog, right? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Get into that middle point where it's just like, we're actually not fighting against each other, we're fighting together. Like, the war's there, we're together. And, you know, him being able to get to a point where he could let that go strengthened our relationship, because it almost felt like I was on the receiving end.
Catching the strays.
Exactly. So it was just like, I'm growing up, getting older, he's still angry at a lot of things or upset at a lot of things, and we would just clash because you know, I was being a young boy, like, what? No, you can't talk to me like that. No, I'm not no you know what I mean? And, you know, you get to that point where it's less about you and more about the greater good and what you're trying to do. Just, you know, seeing that, you know, him figure it out with my parents and being able to just be like, all right, I have to let this go, just allowed us to bond way more, allowed us to have, you know, the space to be vulnerable and honest. Do you get what I mean? You know, for a long time, I was scared to say anything to him or to be like, you know what I mean? Because he was on smoke, and anything he said to him, he was just like, what? Do you get what I mean? So transitioning from that to be able to do it, I can say, like, bro, this isn't cool, without sounding disrespectful or anything like that, is something that you can't necessarily speak about. You'd have to be there to watch it or be present. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And again, I have to say a big shout out to Mikey, because Mikey definitely was the piece that we didn't know that we needed in a lot of those situations, you know, being neutral, and, you know, it didn't even feel like he's apart from the family, he's our brother. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Having him there made life so much easier, because me and my brother are 10 years apart. Me and Mikey are 7-8 months apart. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So there was a level, but Mikey's the oldest in his family, so there was a lot
he
that
understands life from that perspective,
from being the oldest, but being like, well, you're my age, so I get what it is. You know what I mean? So that allowed a lot of, like, things to be understood. That allowed a lot of, like, you know, invisible hurt to be able to, like, be fixed, and just, you know, propel us into a place where, you know, I can't remember the last time that we had a disagreement or argument like that. Just doesn't happen. It just doesn't exist, because there is
we don't allow it to.
There's just a humility, there is an understanding, there is
respect.
There's a respect, there's no ego. Like, it's not about us, it's about where we're going and what we're trying to do. And in order to be in those spaces, we have to be able to be accountable to each other and listen. And you know, being there right now. Go ahead, H.
I was gonna say, on top of that, you know, when Moses is a strong brother, and he and I'm strong, so both of us, that's a dangerous to go against each other. It's way more dangerous than to be together. So we made a choice. Like, nah, but it's not even, because I can't say that we never bumped heads. We have, and it can be life threatening at times. You know what I mean? Because you know what I mean. It's a lot of testosterone, a lot of anger that has been suppressed on both sides. So you see the maturity in us choosing to be there for each other, because that's all we got. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know what I mean? Especially in strange lands, that's all we got is each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, we damn near look like twins at times. People were mistaking me for him and vice versa. So for me, it's like, nah, man, I just remember making a choice in my head that I'm never going to let my brother down. Ever going to let him down. And I'm going to always have his back. And yeah, and allow him to speak his mind, speak his truth, because that's what we weren't allowed to do growing up. Yeah. We weren't allowed to speak our truth, speak our mind, speak to each other. You know what I mean? It was like, do what I say, shut up, I'm older than you, what do you mean? And I never want my brother to feel like that. I want him to feel like he's a grown man and he can speak his truth and speak to me with respect and vice versa. And that's how we do it.
Yeah. All right, cool, man. I've got one more question for you. In fact, I've got two more things, one more question. But obviously we've missed the sort of today part of the journey, like what's happening now. So 30 seconds each, because I don't want to take too much of your time.
Yeah.
I like to call this part, talk your stuff, talk your shit now. Like, what's happening? Just talk that, like, free. Mo, you go first, 30 seconds. Bro, what are you right now? Like, what's going on?
Boy, right now, entrepreneurship, you know, plaques everywhere. We've worked with some of the biggest artists, Justin Bieber, you know, we've worked with Trey Songz, we've worked on we've done big films, we've done K-pop, we've been Grammy nominated. This year, I picked up styling. I got a spread in Vogue Japan. You know, I've, you know, done Paris Fashion, New York Fashion Week, spreading the wings and just, you know, flying high in sky. And, you know, my label, Mike and I did a joint venture with Peer. We signed our own artist.
Come on.
You know, and, you know, all of that, a lot of that came from watching Harmony be the blueprint. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And there's just so much more to come. Mikey is, you know, shooting videos, directing, you know, a lot of social media content that you see is definitely coming from Mike. That's something that he's taking on. He's also now consulting for other people and other clientele. Nice. So, you know, everything is kind of just expanding from just being production to, you know, owning and, you know, starting all of these businesses that are really, really just opening so much more doors. And I know that Harmony's going to tell you, I could talk for him, but I know he's going to tell you all the amazing things that he's got going on. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's exciting for sure.
Harmony,
world
30 seconds.
World domination, man. World domination. Yeah, I mean, the plans are so big. I mean, started my own restaurant in Los Angeles called Fellow. Started my own label, you know, building our empire, BOE. We officially with Universal. My artist Go is out. I'm partners with Kenya Barris, you know, from Grownish. I mean, listen, working with Diddy, working with so many different people. Starting my own film company, working in film, TV.
Has his own, and just really has his own tequila.
Yep, I'm a co-owner of a tequila called Velo that's popping off right now, and like. Just doing great things, man. You know, multiple forms of income. You know, multiple, you know, homes, investments. Just doing things differently, man, and just really living that successful life and showing these young Black boys, British Black boys, that we can do it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm super proud to be a Black British, you know, African working hard in this music space and showing, man, that we can do this too.
That's amazing. That's so inspirational to hear from the both of you, man, guys. Thank you so much.
Sorry, I want to say one thing. I have to do this. He's the first person to become a millionaire. I'm sorry, that doesn't happen. Yeah, bro. He's the first person in our family, like the first generation to do that. So
first
the first one. So it's big. I had to say that, you know what I mean? Because
no. He's not telling us, you got to tell us, you know.
It's real out here. So, you know,
it's real out here, man.
Changed our family's life. And we changed it, and we're still changing our family's life. So, yeah, that's
man, definitely. Love. That was my dream, man, to see my family change, and I've seen it. We did it.
Well done. Nah, it's been amazing talking. And the last thing before you go, just a quick, like a line, a one word, if you want, a little summary what is the lesson you have learned from each other? So Harmony from Mo from Harmony. If you give me one.
Word
or sentence.
In order to be great, you have to be under great.
Okay, got you.
That's literally,
yeah.
What I've learned from my brother is be open, be understanding, and be okay with listening even if you don't agree.
Lovely.
That's a big one. Like Moses really showed me how to listen, even if I don't agree, giving someone the chance to have an opinion, and that changed my life.
Perfect. Guys, thank you so much. As I said, we can do part 2, part 3, part 4.
part 10.
You know what I mean? Part 10, we'll get there. But this has been amazing. Like, I hope it's been good for you guys as well.
No, it's actually been
amazing.
As I'm listening to it, I'm like, wow. I'm listening to it and I'm like, wow, we really, really we did this. You know what I mean? We don't always get the opportunity to sit down and to double back and listen to, the story or how we've got to this point. So just listening and replaying so many memories is just like, it's heart-wrenching. Like it just does something. It makes you so much appreciative. Like I'm going to go to sleep night just thanking God. Like sometimes you need moments like this to just be like, Lord, thank you for getting, so man, that was amazing.
Man. Love, bro. I really appreciate you, man. Seriously.
Thank you. And I hope you guys are documenting between yourselves, or I don't know if I might need to kickstart a project or something, but these things need to be documented. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, doing this with Black Coalition, the Black Music Coalition is the beginning. You know what I mean? At the Barbican and people able to go and see. I think that's the beginning of so many things like this. You know what I mean? I'm sure there are so many other people and so many other family members that are doing something similar. We've seen it, Skepta, JME, and everybody else doing it. So, this is the beginning of so many great things like this, and people's story have to be told. So I really appreciate you, Rob, man, for real. And everybody at Black Music Coalition, we
man, I can't wait to see this. I'm flying next week to do the photo shoot, so I'm excited.
Yeah, so it's going to be really cool. It's going to be good.
I'm going to see if I can come down to the photo shoot.
Okay, good. That would be great. Please, man.
Would love that. Would love that.
All right then, guys. Thank you so much. We'll catch up soon.
Blessings, man. We'll catch up for sure.
Have a good one. Blessings.